So oftentimes when people ask me, I'll just keep grilling them, asking them questions, grilling them until they, to really get at the core of why they want to do it. you know. But I had one filmmaker tell me, fine, I just want to lock people in a room and force my emotions on them. I was like, you're evil, I'm out.
You're listening to Stories from the Top, an inside guide to better business development.
So we're here with Will Keenan, a very special guest today for us. He has done so many different things, acting,
Schmacting, I call it schmacting.
Schmacting, survivor of testicular torsion, as we just learned.
That is true. What a callback. Okay.
And father to
testicular
Winnie, yeah.
torsion. Any young man who's watching this, it happened to that one guy in high school. Right, all of a sudden in the locker room, there's a guy screaming like he's in pain. They say it's the second worst pain to labor. That happened to me, and just to get really sick and twisted. You got your two gonads, right? There's a tube that goes to each one. Testicular torsion is when one tube unattaches and twists, and then your gonad, ball, whatever, is not getting oxygen.
It's
and if you
not
don't
attached at all.
It just unattaches, right? And it's usually if you're, I was playing football at the time, and you're still growing. You're 15, 16 years old, and things are just like, okay, I'm the tube that goes to the gonad. Oh, this is nice. Oh, what's going on? And then all this, but because it's not getting oxygen, it's like very, very painful. So that happened to me, and they told me via the recovery that I would never, chances are I would never be able to procreate.
Man.
And let's just say I had a long and fulfilling romantic life and, lived a public enough life and have been wealthy at various times throughout my life where if I had a kid out there, they would have come and knock him by now. So when her mother, almost 4 years ago, wanted to get married and have a child, I was just like, all right, let's have fun trying. But here's my condition. I don't think it's going to happen. And she says we tried for a year and a half, the last 7 months of which I tried. And I prayed my heart out on an altar of a historic church that I had bought a year previous and named it after my dead mother. Blasphemy! So I consider her a miracle child. That's why, when I have her, she just comes with me everywhere. So you guys have to put up with Alwyn Meta Winnie Keenan. The fact, and by the way, I'm not that parent who puts screens in front of his kid just to get them to shut up or whatever. This is Khan Academy Kids. It's like an interactive learning
games.
But it's truly the only way we could get this done. Otherwise,
yeah, we're happy to have
you saw her.
Here.
She just takes over. She's like, this isn't a Winnie deal. Right? Oh, daddy.
No, the learning apps are great.
Right?
My son's almost 4. He's already reading.
Yeah.
It's crazy. At 3 years old, I don't think I read till I was like 5 or something like that.
Right? Yeah.
It's amazing.
Which
it's
ones
like using the new
Khan
technology.
Academy Kids, Electo Kids, and
he's using Reading Eggs.
Reading Eggs,
and it's like a game, but it's packed with learning.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
They absorb it so fast. It's crazy.
I think, my wife has my son. ABC Mouse, I think it's called.
Okay, ABC. Remember this?
ABC Mouse. Reading Eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something his cousin was using. Apparently, it was great. So, yeah, I'm the same way too. It's like, let's avoid electronics as much as possible. Go be a kid, get out there, do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's hard though. I mean, with the, especially as they, you're supposed to socialize them, integrate them into society, and just parents just essentially give up, in my opinion. They just, when it comes to diet, when it comes to the electronics, and even though the science is out there and the studies are out there showing, no, Cocomelon actually rewires the brain. So they're going to be fat, depressed, promiscuous, early drug use, So it's a battle, but it's one that's worth it, because the rest of my life is devoted to her. The only reason I got back into schmacting and things, started saying yes again to, roles, is because as an old dad, because once it happened, I was like, oh my God, this is like, it was divine intervention. Yeah. I said, shit. I figured I had to get back in the game, sock some more money away because, I might not be around when she's, I want her to go to university chauffeured with armed guards, so I got to start socking some more away for her.
And on the acting front, the whole torsion conversation came up because we were asking if she gets to see any of your movies yet, because
Oh,
you've done
yeah.
a lot of crazy movies.
Yeah.
I just watched Chopped the other day, which was it was crazy. I didn't know what to expect. I love indie movies.
You better with a company
people-
like
people
Edge
define-
of Cinema.
People define indie differently. There's like low budget or just crazy concepts with a huge budget. But that one, I didn't
A lot
know
of
what
my
to
movies they
expect.
called cult movies, which I don't think that's an appropriate name, but and yeah. So
But it was good. It was really funny. You did a great job in it. It
why,
was
thank you.
a wild production, but it was
Yeah.
like the lighting I really thought was well done.
Yeah. It was an amazing. Speaking of that script, written by a guy named Adam Minarovich, who's doing another movie right now called, damn it, and I'm going to be in it, but it's Adam Minarovich, Minarovich, and he's doing like a crowdfunding kind of thing to do it. But he wrote that, and one of the reasons why. Yeah, this is true. So I've worked with, I've done like 45, 60 movies or something, right? Since the early 90s. No director has ever asked me to work with them again. And that's not that I'm a diva, but I guess I'm challenging to work with because, when the spirit hits me, I rewrite all my own lines. I change all my lines. I do all that stuff.
There was a lot of like stuff improv in that movie.
Yeah, well, it's not even improv. When I'm working on something, and I am like a a Virgo ox, which is a double entendre, meaning like like the only reason I was 3 minutes late is because I have a child now. But usually I'm 15 minutes early to everything, so I am that over preparer in a way. So that's the worst thing you could do is give me a script and, we have a month till shooting. All of a sudden I show up on set and it's like, what is he talking about? But I'm professional enough that it doesn't mess up the other person's lines. So I'm at
You
least...
still give them like their version and then do yours?
all their cues are the same. All their lines are the same. The story's the same. It's just, it's more, I guess, conversational in my voice or whatever. I don't change story points, plot point, or anything like that. But, in film, it's easier to do that because once a screenwriter writes a screenplay, it's like you never see them again. It's like the director takes over and now it's a film by the director and he writes his own draft. I mean, so many scripts have been destroyed for that very reason.
How do the directors feel about the liberties taken with the lines?
It depends. If it's a low budget indie cult movie and they asked me because of, Will Keenan Tromeo is going to be in it, well, then you got to deal with, you're going to get, what I give you. These days, though, since I've gotten back into it, because I quit acting in 2006, I think. My girl at the time asked me to quit acting, and I quit acting. I kind of wish I hadn't, because that was right before all the streamers. Like, I'd totally be on some show right now had I stuck with it back in the day. But I started getting back into it. Well, Chop came out of nowhere. It was a friend of mine who I discovered for Trent Haga is his name, and he became a big cult actor and writer, director, and he's written a bunch of, I think, Lifetime movies and like cable net movies. And this was his directing debut, Chop. But he was directing a script by this young genius named Adam Minarovich. And I'm like, dude, why are you directing someone else's script? Because Trent Haga is a great writer. And, I couldn't conceive. I was like, why the hell would you do that, dude? Because he always has and he writes them really fast. He can write like an amazing script in 3 hours or 3 days. And he's like, I sell my scripts. They make money. I'm going to direct something that I didn't write. And, I think he paid Adam very little. But anyway, so I changed all my lines on that. And the writer, Adam Minarovich, was also an actor in that. And he was cool with it. And so he asked me to be in I think it might be his directorial debut, but he wrote this one. So he knows what I'm going to do. And I was just like, all right, just let him go. I mean, just let me do my thing for the first take or two, see what I'm trying to do. And then I'll do whatever you want, because I have a range, and it's just, I'm that kind of actor where I prefer.
Daddy, I want to take a look.
Take a look at what?
I want to take a look around.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think you can do that. Can you just hang out for a little while longer? All right, let's see what happens. Can you be quiet?
She can wander around. Just be careful. A lot of crazy stuff.
Why don't you take us back to the beginning of your acting career and just tell us how you got started? What was that whole process like?
Yeah, especially coming from the East Coast, it's not as easy of a path to get into unless you go to the West Coast, which I guess you did at some point.
This song hear me.
It'll hear you?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-oh. See? She's the signs are there. No, just kidding. Okay. Well, East Coast, I was always considered a ham growing up, you know, faking my own deaths all the time and trying to get a reaction out of people. But but in high school, I did very well. I was president of my class a few times. I was getting straight A's, and I was slated to go to the Air Force Academy, and I was totally down with that. You know, it's hard to get into, and I would have been the first student at my high school to go. And then all of a sudden, like that senior year, because I got in early, senior year, I was like, no, I want to be an actor. Or I said to myself, look, if I can get in to one of the best acting schools at the time, NYU, I'll consider it as, you know, seriously, because, you know, the spirit was moving me. And so not only did I get in early decision, but they gave me a pile of financial aid. So I was like, this is what I'm doing. And everybody, the principal and all the guidance counselors at my high school, they were so distraught. My father was like, I ain't paying for that, which he did not. Only my mother was the one who supported me. And for 4 years at NYU, we put the curriculum on 19.8% interest credit cards. And I can't imagine what it is now, but the curriculum plus, what do they call it? Not accommodations, housing, was like $45,000 a year. And this is 91 through 95.
Yeah, that's crazy back then.
It was crazy back then. What do you think it is now? Double?
At least, yeah.
In New York, yeah. That's insane.
And, you know, I'm glad I did it. You know, I came from essentially a small town in Jersey, and learned a lot just being in New York City. You know, that's where the real acting thing was. So I was doing off-Broadway, off-Broadway, performance art, dance, avant-garde theater, you know, and I was happy at like 99-seat black box theater doing the weirdest stuff, like really weird stuff. But the New York Times was like, it's brilliant, you know, and I was like, you know what? I know I'm never going to make any money at this, you know, and I'm going to be in debt for the rest of my life just from NYU, but I'm happy. My mom was like, you do you, Billy. And so that was going to be it until the week before we were graduating. Myself, my friend Sun King Davis and Brian Conowall, they're both still actors. Brian's on a bunch of shows. We were sitting around my apartment at St. Mark's Place in the East Village a week before graduating, kind of all like, you know, what are we going to do now? And one of them had a Backstage magazine paper. Backstage is like a casting, you know, paper. Yep. And they're like, oh my God, Troma's casting. And they're going nuts. I'm like, what's Troma? And they're like, you don't know Troma? Toxic Avenger, Surfing. You know, they named all these movies. I was like, no, I was climbing trees when I was, you know, a kid. I wasn't watching these sick and twisted movies. And they're like, they're doing, you know, their version of Romeo and Juliet. And I had just taken 2 years of Shakespeare at NYU and truly considered myself a pro. And so I read the thing and I was like, all right, let's go down there. And I went down there. Lloyd Kaufman, Mr. Troma, tells a story that I came in with a pizza box as a prop. And I was known to, like, even for auditions, like really go all out. Speaking of which, let me tell you, if we have time, about the audition I did to get to and got cast as the fake white Michael Jackson on Law & Order SVU.
Yeah, I was trying to look that
Okay,
up.
I dressed up for that one. But anyway, I went in and I just the sides, you know, the parts we're supposed to read had actual Shakespeare in it. And James Gunn is there, Andrew Weiner. Lloyd wasn't there. He doesn't show up until like you're on set 2 months later. And Jane Jensen was there. She had already been cast as Juliet. And I could tell I got the role from the first reading. And then they put you through the ringer. And I was a casting director on the follow-up, Terra Firma. And the reason they put you through the ringer is, especially if you have to get naked in one of the scenes, they make you come back for callbacks like 5 times, get naked in the casting camera, because then they're confident enough you'll do it when you show up to set. Because I guess Lloyd, it had happened so many times where, you know, people said they would get naked and they show up to set and they won't. So if they're willing to get naked at 5 different times in the, you know, in the casting office for callbacks, then they're willing to do it. So a week before graduating NYU, walking down the aisle in Washington Square Park before jumping in the fountain, I was cast as Tromeo, which, and this was mid 1995, summer of 95, and there had been a boycott, union boycott with indie films for like 5 years before that. So the last hurrah, really, the boom had just started. But getting cast as Tromeo was almost like a porn career. It opened up some doors, but it slammed other ones shut. But luckily the boom was going on because I realized, oh shit, I have to do a lot more to almost get the stigma of being Tromeo, away from like who I truly am. Although it's probably going to be on my tombstone,
Tromeo and the fake white Michael Jackson on Law and Order.
That's what it'll be. So yeah, during that time from like 95 through 2000, 2001, probably did like 45 indie movies. Some that, went all the way, got, distribution.
What was like the budget range on those indie movies?
Troma movies are always $300,000. Doesn't matter what decade it is for some reason. It's always $300,000. Something like Chop, but that was made in 2012. Believe it or not, $60,000. Right. And after my first two movies, Tromeo and Love God, and Anthony Bregman's first producerial effort, and he's a big-time movie producer now. Eternal Sunshine, Michel Gondry, Charlie Kaufman movies, on and on. It's considered the very first fully digital feature film that Good Machine, a very reputable indie film company, made at the time. Right after that, I started making shorts because I was like, I don't know, I'm not a control freak, but I learned early on, and especially in the movie industry, that actors we're just treated a certain way. We're the last to be told anything. We're not taken seriously. They only like want us to, get on camera, and they think we're liars. We lie when we're on camera if we're good. So I didn't like just being an actor. In fact, I still don't like hanging out with actors. Probably shouldn't say that on a podcast. So I caught the bug, and I started directing and producing. And then as a producer, during this last hurrah of indie film, I prided myself on people saying, wow, he can make a $2,000 budget look like $20,000, $20,000 look like $200,000, $200,000 look like $2 million, and then I was doing that up until about 2004, 5, 6 maybe, but moved from New York to LA in 2003. And then the economic downturn, the economy crash. So I used to get, funding for the movies I was making as a producer, I was getting movies funded just so I could star in them because I thought that was the way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. It really wasn't. If I were to do my whole career over again, I would have gone the opposite direction. I would have done the commercial stuff first and then the crazy indie passion projects. Yeah.
What was the path to get funding for an indie film like this?
Well, before the economic downturn, it was just Wall Street guys who wanted to come and hang out with the actresses at parties and did not expect their $50,000 back. That was really it, And if you were able to, and after, my first 5 or 6 movies, hanging out with certain names, celebrities, actors, and they would attach themselves to the project, and that helped, at least with back when foreign pre-sales was the thing, where you could pre-sell the movie to Germany, France, Italy, England, so forth, like Troma movies. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, and this is for you producer, director, financiers out there. Supposedly, my name still, if I'm the lead in a movie, in a genre movie, preferably horror comedy, you can still pre-sell that movie before you even start shooting for $300,000 to $500,000. Here's an idea for you.
You can pre-sell it. Like who's buying it?
France, Italy, Germany, England. The movies I star in are even more popular in the Far East, but there's no pre-sales there. They just bootleg all that stuff. I mean, I've had movies of mine. Was Chop one of them? No, it was. There was 2 movies towards the end of my schmacting career where even before we were done editing, it was available on streets in India.
Really?
For real.
Before you're done the
Before
edit.
we were done the edit.
How did they get that?
There was no engines in the edit room. I don't know.
So somebody leaked like an early copy, or they like stole it somehow?
When we were in India for a project like probably like 8 years ago, but they had on every street corner, like all the American movies are still in theaters. It was like the filmed in the theater style bootleg.
That's
like,
probably what it was.
Yeah.
Right? Well, no, it wasn't. I mean, we were in the edit room. So they probably had a better quality than the film in the theater ones. And I worked in India a bunch too, because when the economic downturn happened, if I were to, again, no regrets because you learn a lot, but if I were to do it over again, that's when YouTube came out. I would have switched primarily as a performer to digital then.
Be like an influencer type of thing.
Yeah. Because that was the time for someone like me at my age with my history to have done it. But I don't know. I mean, it took me so many years to like get the hang of packaging a movie, developing a property, I mean, it takes, any movie usually takes 2 years out of your life, and you're going out of pocket like 75 grand before you even make a dime, So I went to what is still the biggest independent film industry in the world, which is India. And there's like there's Bollywood, Tollywood, Collywood, the North and the South, 4 distinct film industries. And to this day, like they scalp tickets to movies. So I took an exploratory trip out there in like 2008. And because I was a Ferengi, meaning a Westerner, who had some actual Hollywood credits, they just rolled out the red carpet for me. And I started working with like the biggest stars there. And I made, I think, 4 or 5 movies in total over a period of 4 years. And my trips there kept getting longer and longer. And I was on the cover of like the Bombay Times, which is like the New York Post of all of India. And they're saying I'm a hot young Hollywood producer. I was working with SRK. He's like the Shah Rukh Khan, the Tom Cruise of India. It was amazing. And I was making good money. I had a cook, a gardener, a chauffeur, a domestic staff. I mean, it was good living. But my girlfriend at the time was like, look, because my last trip there was like 9 months. And she said, if you stay there, I realize you're doing great, but if you stay there, we have a problem in our relationship. So within 3 days, I was back. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm switching to digital. And because she was like, you got to get a real job now. I was like, no. So I took that as an opportunity, and we had this really long dining room table. And, probably because of my age, I started studying YouTube and what were then called the multi-channel networks. And they were very small at the time. And I just had stacks of printouts with like, I probably looked like a serial killer, notations and highlights and everything. And for about a week and a half, and studied as much as I could about what was going on in YouTube and, digital content. And at the end of it, I was like, I know everything about, YouTube, which wasn't the case, obviously, but that confidence, I think, because I am that kind of guy. I'm a little, fruity, spiritual. It's like what you think about, you bring about, put it out there into the universe. Like within a day after that, camp I put myself through, I got a call from a friend of mine, Michael Lynn, who was a Emmy-nominated producer for E's True Hollywood Story, and we had done a pilot together. And he's like, hey, my wife Liza, she's head of HR at this Maker Studios, and I don't know, she really thinks you would fit in over there. We hear you're back. And I'm like, I know about Maker Studios. So I went over there, I met the founders, and at the time they had 300 channels, some big YouTube stars, getting about 300 million views a month. And then by the time I left 2 years later, I think we had 300,000 channels, getting 5 billion views a month. And I had started just kind of like working with the talent, and then made it all the way to, my first month there, they gave me 3 raises because I realized like this is a career change. It's still the same industry in a way, but a career change. I was like, I got to make this work. So once they kind of brought me in, they're like, yeah, we'll try this guy out. I went around to every department and just made myself indispensable. I hooked up, a celebrity for this, for Ray William Johnson to guest on his thing. I just, they're like, we love this guy, Will. And so they just kept giving me raises. And then, it was the Wild West. Okay. Want to do it without them? You want to sit down? And
what year is this?
this would have been 2011 to 2013. And, it was a full screen, Maker Studios, Machinima, Twitch, I think had just started. And I probably brought close to, I think it was 850 million views a month into the Maker Studio CMS, their network on YouTube, through signing new talent, developing talent, launching them, signing YouTube stars. I built whole verticals, like mini networks of channels per category.
So you're acting in like a recruiting form, like bringing people onto the channel?
Yeah. Because this was like, everyone was just trying to, because they realized it was the ComScore, right? With these MCNs. It's like, how many views, it doesn't matter how many channels you have, how many views a month are you getting? Because where the eyeballs are going, the advertisers follow, right? So it was just the race, with full screen, Maker, Machinima, all of them, to see who could sign as many channels and bring views. And we did. And so much so that, right as I was leaving was the whole Disney deal going on. And it was, at the time, it was just like, they don't know what they're buying. They're not buying anything. These people, these talent, the influencers, right? They wouldn't even call them these YouTube stars. They're on 2-year contracts. You don't have any of the IP, the intellectual property. They don't know what they're doing, but we all just kind of like, see ya, bye. And then that's when you get to a certain age. And as long as you, are still working and innovating and like someone I knew for 15 years, was taking over the world's largest television production company's North American division, Endemol, and they were opening up their first digital division in North America. And so he was like, well, you're coming over here now. And that was like, oh man, that was great. So I built we called it a PCN, a premium channel network. We didn't have to scale. It was more like almost like a TV incubator. So one of the other things I was known for at Maker was bringing, traditional celebrities onto the YouTube platform, like Margaret Cho, Adrian Grenier. I signed James Gunn. He had this really cool channel called PG Porn, where they would take the scripts from porn movies, but just, act them out without the sex. I still might be on there, on YouTube somewhere. And I did the same thing at Endemol. So it was Dre DiMatteo's first YouTube channel, like web series, Courtney Love, and then some big YouTube stars like Michelle Phan was like the first beauty guru on YouTube, Brittany Furlan, the queen of Vine at the time. And that did really well. And that was another 2-year gig. And they were just really, they were ramping up to either go public or sell, So we knew what was going on. And there was a merger with another big television production company, Shine. So I saw the writing on the wall and I was like, I don't want to, I'm out of here. So I left that, and then I really just got burnt out, and I was like, I need a 6-month sabbatical. I just really wanted to go stand on my head in India somewhere and have, pay someone to deliver fruit and vegetables once a week. But I realized, and this was kind of, at the height of my executive, as far as digital executive career. No, the answer is no. You gotta put the
Got our sound effects.
yeah. There you go. Clip that. And I was, because I had, especially with film, I had traveled the world at film festivals. I had an extensive worldwide network, and I had put the word out, like, hey, with, not influencers, but let's just say influential people, affluence. Hey, watch out where you're stepping. Where do you think you're going? And I had offers, oh yes, our guest house in Greece and Italy and da-da-da-da. And it was looking good. I just wanted 6 months, and I figured I would go back to Hollywood, recharge. And then this voice in my head said, if you do this, your mother is not going to be alive by the time you get back. And hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're acting like that, dancing around?
Dancing.
And so I called my mom, lives in Sewell, New Jersey, right across the bridge. And I said, hey, Mom, can I come do my 6-month sabbatical in my old room from when I was like 16 years old? And she was like, yeah, Billy. And I knew she had been like not doing well health-wise for a few years. I just didn't know how bad. She had stopped to come visit once or twice a year in California and came out with like lame excuses, like she's afraid to fly all of a sudden. And I just didn't know what the hell was going on. Anyway, so I went back, and I thought I would have 6 months with her. I had 6 days with her. And my sisters say that she just kind of waited for you to come home to pass. And then instead of like cutting my sabbatical short and going back to Hollywood or something, I stayed in her condo for 3 months and grieved, really, because, you know, through her passing, realized she had cancer for 9 years. I mean, it was bad. She had this tumor on her chest. It looked like an alien. And she was a nurse. And I don't know if you guys have any people in your family who are in the medical field. I think it's changed now, but it's like they'll kick down your door if they hear you have a sniffle, but they don't want anyone's help, and they don't help themselves when they have conditions. So she wasn't doing anything for her cancer, anything. So I just kind of walked around, you know, in her condo and just wanted to experience it, like what she went through, you know? And then I started going down the shore, which we used to have, you know, houses down the shore, and reconnecting with family and friends and stuff. And then got tired of taking the Atlantic City Expressway and the Parkway. And I took the back roads once, and I see this old historic church from like the early 1800s for sale. And the spirit just hit me, and I bought it, and I named it after her. Blasphemy. I went to 12 years of Catholic school, or as I like to say, I was in for 12 years. And started a nonprofit foundation in her name. And because one of the other things I realized through her passing and going through all her records was that she probably would have gone on to become a doctor had she not had to pay for my college education, which was so expensive at NYU. So in a way, I was like, all right, well, I want to keep her legacy going and, you know, give up my career. You know, so I did that for a few years. I kept my foot in the game, you know, executive producer on a really good documentary called The Last Sermon, which did the rounds, very heavy documentary, though, about the refugee crisis. Did some work under pseudonyms. By the way, that's the other thing. I don't think my IMDb has been updated. There's probably 15 more credits that, you know, with my name. But there's a bunch of stuff with names that are not mine that, you know, I don't know. With what fans I have left, I'm always like, try to find them. Try to find these things. So I did a little bit of that. And then this happened. So I was like, I got to get back in the game, either through, you know, the digital stuff, being an executive again, which I have here and there, doing is this thing on? Is this thing on? Doing some consulting. But even though I think the pandemic, which is not over, kind of hastened, you know, quickened certain things that were going to happen anyway, you know, remote work and all that kind of stuff. You know, the jobs I'm being offered as far as, you know, digital entertainment executive, they're still in LA and New York. And for as much as I fought to be in her life, there's no way I'm leaving the area.
Go back to the West Coast.
But I have started saying yes again too, because, you know, ever since the trauma days, at least 6 times a year, I get an offer to star in one of these crazy ass movies. And I've just always said no, you know. And I started saying yes again. Because oddly enough, they're willing to, like, they actually pay now. Like I'm doing, and I've done some theater. People, I guess when you get to a certain age, if you have enough credits or whatever, and you're still in the game, or people can find you online or something. So now I just get offers, and I'm like, really? How are you guys funding this? You know what? I don't care. So yeah, and I'm doing theater again. In fact, I leave in 2 weeks at the Detroit Public Theater, and it's a very kind of prestigious production, and it's a really, really meaty role starring in this production, heavy duty role.
How long is the run?
It's kind of like a workshop deal, so it's only like 4-5 performances from July 31st to August 3rd. It's called Drone. It's at the Detroit Public Theater. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's then supposed to go to off-Broadway or something. So we'll see. It'll all depend on how well I do, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, and there's an opportunity to get back into producing indie films again, but I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, it's such a slog.
Yeah, do you ever want to do something that's not in that horror comedy genre? Something more like
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was a Shakespearean actor. I was a serious actor. And in fact, before Tromeo, I remember a girl I was dating my senior year. This is like, probably a week before I got cast in Tromeo. I remember this girl saying to me, because I definitely considered myself a serious actor. She's like, don't ever try comedy. You're just, you just don't have it. And I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I was just, I think, angry young man, totally serious dude. And I was really good, don't get me wrong, but comedy wasn't my thing. And maybe it was Lloyd, James, Tromeo. I remember seeing Tromeo for the first time at the Cannes, market, and being like, because here it's a 20-foot screen, and I was a stage actor, and stage acting, emoting to the back row is very different from film acting. The all-seeing eye catches everything. Very different from TV acting. It's like me in close-ups the whole time. Very different from YouTube acting. Oddly enough, YouTube acting and trauma acting are very similar, schmacting. So once I saw myself on screen, I was like, oh my God, I look like one of the trauma monsters, because I was just like, my face, like, the close up of my face and going like this. So that's when I was kind of like, no, I got to crack that nut. I got to figure out. I don't think I ever truly figured it out. Maybe Johnny X. There's a movie I did, one of the last movies I did, called The Ghastly Love of Johnny X. And that was my Marlon Brando kind of role. But I was very I don't even flare a nostril in that. You guys laugh because you've seen movies. You're like, God, will his nostrils stop flaring?
Oh yeah, people, a lot of the amateur or new actors, they don't realize that the tiniest little twitch can look so ridiculous and cheesy if you're not you don't realize the mainstream best of the best actors what micro control they have over their face that they're actually exercising.
You ever see any of their I don't think they're called riders for actors. It's like you can only shoot Tom Hanks from this one angle with this light.
Where's that camera up?
Yeah, so I'm like that now. I'm no Tom Hanks, right? But I'll be like, where's your ring light? Where's your beauty dish? They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, no. Am I the star of your movie? Well, then you shoot me like a star, okay? Like a woman. Shoot me like a woman. Put
we got
Vaseline, some gauze over there.
Yeah.
You guys know what a ring light is, though, right?
Yeah, we know it. Yeah. We have the beauty dish. We don't have them on right now.
Yeah,
it's not going to be in breach of contract.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky she's still in focus.
So I want to
hear.
hear.
Should I put on my sunglasses?
No.
She flirt with you? What's going on there?
I don't know.
I'm your daddy.
You gonna move in with me and Bruce? So I want to hear a little bit more about the church building, because when we first met, that's when you were kind of figuring out what you want to do. I think she was probably 2 turning 3 at the time or something like that. And it sounds like a pretty awesome property. You're out
for sale? No, I actually just signed an agreement because let's quickly. I don't know. Can I get in trouble for this? Her mother, after she was born, convinced me to acquire this other property. So we had the church property, 2 acres. I paid cash for it a few years ago, no debt. I mean, we were living the life. Her mother convinced me to, and this is during a pandemic, the church, which was, making nowhere near $1 million a year in revenue, to get $1 million loan. I had great credit at the time, but no salary. I mean, I pretty much took a vow of poverty when I did it. So I wasn't paying myself, just my expenses. So somehow I was able to get the money together for a $1.5 million purchase price of 20 acres, 3 housing structures, in what was then called by the Philadelphia Inquirer on their Sunday real estate section cover, the last natural oasis in Rio Grande, the gateway to Wildwood and Cape May. And I did it because I thought it would be an idyllic place for her to grow up. And under the auspices of the church, open up this amazing property that even the locals didn't even know. It has its own lake, its own forest. It's amazing. And then 2 weeks before it took me 7 months to close the deal, get all the money together. 2 weeks before, her mother was in love with someone else, and then family just blew up. And I remember the night before closing, and I was distraught.
Yeah.
The night before closing, this voice said to me, "You can get out of this now. You're going to lose like 25, 50 grand, but you can get out of it." But there's the angel and then the devil on the shoulder. I was like, "No, she's going to snap out of it," because I totally forgave her. I was like, let's just, for her, and that didn't happen. And the business model worked, because like once I put it out there, it was cover of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and people knew about it. People were, that first season especially, people were coming from all over the world for a retreat there. And it's the Jersey Cape, it's America's oldest seaside resort. So, and we're a nonprofit charitable organization. So I was using the Verbos, the Airbnbs, and as long as you're a nonprofit, you don't have to worry about the accounting part of it. Mm-hmm. But the smart pricing, if you leave that on, people were willing to pay $600 a night to stay in a tent on this property. It was crazy. But the family law legal bills, is what sunk me. And I realized I just couldn't do both. So I put it up for sale and signed an agreement a few months ago, and we're supposed to close July 15th.
So
that's that.
Back to acting.
Back to schmacked.
So I'm really looking forward to minimizing, or whatever you call it,
downsizing,
minimizing, and just all about it. The organization St. Babs that I started, will still exist, and we did a lot of good in that community. We provided emergency shelter to hundreds and hundreds of people over a number of years. The church became known as the Arts Church. 450 bands played there. We were getting grants from Cape May County, the Wawa Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts for arts programs. Must have given out $200,000-$300,000 worth of, and a lot of cash for helping people with their families, underprivileged families, with their utilities, computer equipment, music equipment. It was very, very fulfilling. I've had tough gigs in my career. Mm-hmm. Try to get Shirley MacLaine out of her trailer, okay? Or try to get Lil Wayne into the studio to finish a 16-bar verse. But this was the most challenging and the most gratifying, being, executive director, founder, and small town preacher of St. Babs. But, it was 7 years. And, now, so we'll still be in the game, but truly, I consider her a miracle child, and my mother was all about children. So I think she had something to do with it. Thanks, Mom. So the rest of my life is dedicated to that. So to that right there, to making sure that, cause also I'm an old dad, so setting her up in a way,
So at what age does she get to start watching the library?
Listen, oh God. I went through this, my sisters, who are both older than I am, their children, I have 5 nieces and nephews, and they're in their early 20s, mid 20s maybe now. And I remember when they were her age, and I was just like, oh my God. CAR?
C-A-R.
Sounded? Yeah!
Yay.
You got it.
What does C-A-E spell?
CAE? Nothing in English.
What does C-A-R spell?
You just said it.
C-A star. C-A-R. What does that spell?
You just told us.
Car.
Okay. What was it? Sorry.
Oh, we were talking about with kids starting to watch your
so
stuff.
I remember
your
being
nephews or something.
freaked out,
oh God,
C-R.
it's gonna, because I was super uncle,
C-R.
and
C-R. No.
remember our deal? Does that hotel have a pool? Because I have to find a pool. And I don't talk to them much these days, so I think they probably saw them. No, I'm deathly afraid. I guess all I can hope is that I make a good enough impression on her that she, whenever she sees that stuff, because people are watching that stuff earlier and earlier,
Yeah.
but I might be dead before she sees, I mean, I know that's morbid. But I would
Is that what
love,
you want? Yeah.
well,
Your hope.
but also, and although I'm, still, just a few years ago as a digital executive and still do it, like I realize, and people tell me, you look at the stuff I did, and maybe this is an overstatement, but a lot of what is available online now is tame. I mean, what I did is tame compared to a lot of the,
Yeah.
a lot of the other stuff she's going to be exposed to,
We go on like Twitter or X, and it's like real videos of people getting shot and killed like all day long,
And
depending on like.
porn,
Yeah.
and sometimes the hashtag fools you. It's like Sunday stride. Oh, let's see what that, and all of a sudden,
Yeah. It's the Wild West if you're not careful online.
Yeah. And I made those movies, and I guess because of my schmacting ability, I get cast in them, but I don't like them. I really don't. I can't watch horror movies. Like I'm too sensitive. I don't watch. I don't watch movies. I really don't, because I remember, I went to hundreds and hundreds of festivals, and we would never, and my filmmaker friends, we'd never see one another's movies because we're out there like, shucking, huckster, and so, handing out flyers to get people to your movies. But every time I sit down to watch a movie, it just stays with me. It's in my dreams, oftentimes nightmares. It's like when you go into I used to say in New York City, bodega, or a convenience store, and they're playing some, well, you guys would be 90s maybe, 90s or early 2000s, horrible song, and it's stuck in your head all day. That's what extreme images do to me, whether it's horror movies or something. My excuse used to be, no, I don't want to see anyone else's work because I want my work to be original, and I believed that at the time. I didn't want to be exposed to anything, so all my ideas would come from me, but I'm just a wuss. So I can't really watch that.
The master of the Colts can't handle it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
That's a good question though.
It's kind of like watching like a uncomfortable movie with your parents. Is like,
yeah.
I'm sure it's probably even worse with your kids because it's like you're putting their
you just put
respect for
something in
you
my head
on.
I hadn't thought about that. She's gonna get to a certain age where some friend of hers is like, no, come on, we're watching one of your dad's movies.
Oh my god.
So how uncomfortable will she be watching me in those crazy movies with a friend of hers?
Well, yeah, they're like 16. You'll be senior citizen in the kitchen. What are you girls watching?
Get off of my lawn! Ay, ay, ay.
So, are you going to take her on the set with some of the new projects and stuff? Because it's obviously a lot different on like a horror set versus watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I did something for some Wilmington filmmakers called it's premiering at the Wilmington Fest in October, and it's I guess a featurette.
Hey, no touches.
And it's called The Galactic Samurai Schoolgirl something or other. And although some of the women in it are showing some cleavage, it's nothing like the trauma stuff, and it's like science fiction space comedy. But I think it's my favorite role. They asked me, they just made an offer and asked me to do this role, and I was like, I can do something with this. But I warned them. I was like, look, you're hiring me, so I'm not going to do it. I don't want me to do it. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I saw this character as my combination of Joe Pesci in any of the mob movies, and what's his name from Family Guy? Giggity. What's his name? Quagmire. Yeah. So imagine Quagmire and Joe Pesci, and that's what you'll see in this Galactic Samurai Schoolgirls thing, which I was very excited to do.
Nice. Sounds good. You have any advice for somebody who wants to get started in a career in acting?
Yeah. I've been asked a lot of these, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a producer, I want to be an actor, and I've helped a lot of people in their careers. People have helped me. I've given a lot of people their start, but usually because it's a tough life, and It's very, very hard. You know, I mean, it takes a village. No, it takes a miracle to make a feature film these days. You know what I mean? And there's all these things, you know, working against you. It's like some people, like some of these, you know, independent filmmakers, just like, I gotta make another movie. I gotta make another movie. And they make like 40 movies in a year. And, you know, every movie you make that does not make at least $1 back and, you know, gets a good review works against your career, you know? So oftentimes when people ask me, I'll just keep grilling them, asking them questions, grilling them until they, you know, to really get at the core of why they want to do it. And if it's for fame, or if it's, you know, for something that I think is like, okay, you're not going to make it, you know, especially if you don't have the talent, you know, but if their heart's not in the right place, I try to talk them out of it. I'm that guy who tries to talk people out of it because, you know, other people years later, we're talking 10, 20 years later, like, thank God you talked me out of that.
Yeah.
you know, but
So how do you
I had one
differentiate?
filmmaker tell me, you know, fine, I just want to lock people in a room and force my emotions on them. I was like, you're evil, I'm out. you know.
So how do you differentiate between, like, what are the good reasons to want to do this career and what are the wrong
It
reasons?
depends. It's like when I don't know if this was on the part where you didn't press record. I'm just kidding. It fulfilled me as an actor, even though I knew I was going to be in debt for the rest of my life after graduating NYU, to be creative in a 99-seat, you know, black box theater, right? And the people who were coming to see that stuff appreciated it. You know, I mean, that to me, for me, was the right attitude. If someone has that attitude, I was like, you're going to go far, kid. You know, because if you're willing, you know, the artist's life, it's, you know, starving artist, like whatever you want to call it. I mean, you can have 9, you know, you're not just a waiter. Now you have 9 side hustles, you know, to do that kind of thing. And as a filmmaker, if it's really telling stories, you know, that you think should be told, and, you know, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't want my work to, you know, reach the largest, you know, widest audience possible. You know, it's hard to do with low budget indie movies, you know, but one of the things I realized, and, you know, before I went to Bollywood, I had a chance to start in YouTube or digital, you know, beforehand, is that, well, that's the new discovery engine, right? So I remember someone telling me in Hollywood, you know, if you want to be an actor, get famous first. And this is pre-influencer era. Get famous first. It doesn't matter if you jump out of a plane in the middle of Hollywood naked, get famous first, because that fame is currency, right? That's why everyone who, you know, pops off in a reality show will at least get a shot. You know, if you get famous first, you'll at least get a shot. So gain influence. If you're a filmmaker, you know, from the moment you have your idea about the story of the script, start documenting that. I have this idea, a story about the script. Tell me if you like it. Leave me a comment. Start a channel, and from like, oh, there's the first page of the script. All right, working on the second page. Check me back later. So that, you know, you can have 2 views the first time, 20 the second time, but at the end of that 2 years, when you actually, you know, get your movie in the can, you might have 2,000 people who are waiting to see it, you know? And for a low budget indie movie, like, that's just enough. So, you know, a lot more than other people. And the other thing I will always say, and no one's ever able to do it because everything goes over budget. I would always say, no matter what your budget is, add $50,000, raise another $50,000, and don't touch the $50,000, because at the end of it, no one's going to distribute your movie, you know. And you, at least with $50,000, you can at least buy remnant space on late night cable television, or now, obviously, ads. You know,
Yeah,
and there's
just
so many
digital
ways to
ads.
market it. I mean, you guys are experts at that, right?
Mhm.
She breaks it, I buy it. It's fine.
That's okay.
But no one's ever able to do that because we all go over budget and stuff, you know? Yeah. I mean, if I were to do it all over again, I would, you know, be online and I mean, but now, okay, forget all of that. It's over, guys. AI, it's over. The only thing
Yeah, what's the actor perspective on AI?
I'm like, digitize all my movies and make me a star again and get her paid, right? Come on, you want Tromeo? You want that good-looking 21-year-old Tromeo to act in your movie? You got to pay her, and AI is going to do it. No, I mean, it's blowing me away what I'm seeing. And that just in the last 6 months.
You know, Google just had like the talking and walking now. It's like VO3, yeah.
Holy crap. So that's my question to you, especially with the business you have here. Hey, listen, those elephants are a little loud. How is it going to change the nature of your business? It's definitely going to change it. Are you going to be honest with your clients or not? And are you going to hope your clients don't have like an 18 to 21-year-old nephew who's like, I could do that too?
Well, what we feel the most value we deliver is the planning and strategy of how you create the content and what the messaging is and where you're going to use it. So whether
There you
it's
go.
something we're shooting or
Clip
something,
that was great. Clip that.
but yeah, whether we're shooting it or they're generating it.
Are you saying I need to lose a little weight? What are you saying?
That's you.
But whoever's creating the content,
That's me. That's you.
I love you.
wherever that content's coming from, as long as the message of that content is correct and being
Right.
done right, you still need someone with a lot of experience and
So you guys are
trial
looking
and
forward to
error.
it. It's going to help your business.
Absolutely,
we're
yeah.
not scared of it at all.
Awesome.
Yeah, we kind of knew technology has been changing since we started our business back in 2009 and from the beginning of the film industry, really. But
Yeah.
our goal recently has been to keep moving upstream so that we stay valuable and needed to our clients. Because, we started off as pretty much DPs. We were good with the camera. We could get good shots. And then year by year, it gets easier and easier for everybody else to do the same thing with better technology.
Right.
So we kept trying to find ways, how can we add more value to our clients? What new tools can we learn so that we can be, effective on the strategy side and not just the production side? Because technology, it's great for everyone. Technology is making it easier for everyone to afford and produce great content. So now it's really a question of, what should I produce? What's the best strategy to drive your business forward?
Yeah.
We recently did a little just solo episode, me and Jeremy just talking about AI stuff. And one of the things I've been thinking about lately is that no one particularly was like asking for AI generation stuff. It's kind of like, hey, we made this. How can you guys use it to make a bunch of money? So it's a lot of people trying to reverse
cool.
engineer it.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things like
Interesting. You can also use it as proof of concept and
for us, it's like, okay, cool. If we need stock footage of something, we can just make a quick clip exactly like we want instead of looking through big libraries and paying for it.
Yeah.
But for things like going on site at a client's location and filming their real employees, I don't think anybody wants the like, hey, we generated some fake employees for this video. That's how much we care about our business
Probably
and
a
our
big part of
customers.
what you guys do is that making people feel like a star who are in just regional business.
Yeah, a lot of times
Could be
it's the
accounting.
business owner who needs that personal branding.
Yeah.
So while you can replace that with an AI person, it's kind of like if somebody finds out that that's what you did, like the customers kind of view that as like a little bit less than the actual person doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Like how the whole influence, like the whole user generated content thing is very hot right now. It's been hot. I feel like it's probably like getting kind of overdone at this point, but where instead of a really highly produced commercial, just a guy walking around with his phone type of look has been really popular. Oh, it's so authentic. That's really just them.
Oh, it'll change.
Where like the AI videos is almost the opposite of that. Look, we couldn't even bother to get off of the chair.
Right.
Tony in the basement just made that. Look how cool it looks.
Right.
It's like,
And it looks like a clip from a new James Gunn movie. I mean, it's like, wow.
and the fact that everyone has access to it.
Hey, listen. You want to go to that pool later?
Well, then you gotta stop making noise over there.
But the fact that everyone on the planet will have access to it, it's just there's going to be just so much content everywhere.
I know.
It's all going to
AI
look and feel
slop,
the same. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Andy Warhol thing. Everyone's famous for 15 minutes. The Francis Ford Coppola, it's like everyone
Copies that style. And
He's
then
going to be a filmmaker now once phones came out. So Alan met a winnie Keenan. Hey. All right. I don't know how much more time she's going to give us,
right.
but I just want, for the record, their air conditioning's not working today. They're obviously in better shape than I am. I've always been a sweater.
You came with a towel before we even told you it wasn't working. So
Yeah, right.
Smart.
There was one other thing I want to say about the AI stuff. Anyway, if you guys want to hire the young me for any of your projects, talk to my agent.
Okay.
Now, is there any other ideas, questions you guys?
No, I think that's it. We
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate you coming in. It was fun just to get
Yeah,
to
thanks so
chat,
much.
kind of have a
Right on.
just get to hang type of
And
session.
This is
So we
amazing.
appreciate
Congratulations. Continued
Oh, thank you
success.
again.
I'm staying in the area, so if there's a way to collaborate on something, if you need another ham performer, we
bring the
appreciate it.
Keenans in.
And,
No, thank-
do you let other projects happen here?
it. Yeah.
Yeah?
The space is totally. You can rent it or
Yeah?
use it, whatever you want. Yeah.
No. All right. We're going to break something.
All right.
And cut. Okay.
Stories from the Top is your guide to successful business development. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or find Edge of Cinema on YouTube. Stories from the Top is an Edge of Cinema production, hosted by Matthew Skura and Jeremy Schmidt. To learn more or get in touch, visit edgeofcinema.com/podcast.